Thank you, Jenny and Kate, and good morning, everyone. I'm Sylvia Bortoli and I work for the NIHR Centre for Engagement and Dissemination, and I'm going to share some slides with you. Hopefully that's working. If someone could give me a thumbs up, Samira, can you give me a thumbs up? I can see. Okay, great. Perfect, thank you. And yeah, so as I said, I work for the NIHR Centre for Engagement and Dissemination as a Senior Public Involvement Manager, and our role in NIHR is to provide support and leadership and strategic direction for involvement, engagement and participation in research. So unlike some other NIHR colleagues that work around public involvement that you might have had kind of liaising with, our role is really to sit at that more kind of strategic level. So that's why I'm here today, is to talk to you a bit more about NIHR's perspectives around public involvement and engagement in research, and set the scene really for the discussions today. So first of all, I wanted to really kind of start from the basics of setting the scene of what is patient and public involvement and engagement from the NIHR perspective. So this is a topic that is really very much embedded in the way that NIHR operates. So much so that in the NIHR Best Research for Best Health, the next chapter, which is the NIHR's strategic direction document, patient and public involvement is referenced in one of the key work streams, which talks about partnering with patients, service users, carers and communities to improve the relevance, quality and the impact of our research. So it's kind of stated kind of explicitly as one of the key work streams that NIHR is working towards to achieve its mission. Also, from a practical point of view, PPI is very much embedded in our funding processes too. It's very much expected as part of our the funding process in terms of the standard application form. We also have patient representatives as part of the funding committee panels and reviewing the application processes too. I was really struck by what actually Jenny said in her little introduction, where she said nothing stands still, and this very much does speak to the world of PPI in research, so much so that this kind of the context of COVID meant that PPI needed to be revisited. And what I mean by this is that when the pandemic started and research priorities were redirected towards kind of COVID-19 research and urgent priorities around that. Unfortunately, there was a drop in public involvement activities at the time. And so in kind of earlier this year, NIHR alongside other kind of key funders and regulators and other organisations in the health and care space decided that that wasn't good enough, and that they wanted to really we want to come together and give a public shared commitment to public involvement in research, and that's what we did. So working with other organisations, there's a kind of a public facing shared commitment to public involvement, which I've linked to in my slides, and this kind of sets out NIHR's commitment to this, no matter the kind of the context or the global kind of national context that we find ourselves in. We are committed that public involvement is important, expected and possible in all types of health and social care research. And also importantly, we're committed to the fact that excellent public involvement is inclusive, values all contributions, ensures people have a meaningful say in what happens and influences outcomes as set out in the UK Standards for Public Involvement, which I'll talk to you about in a minute. On this slide, I've kind of lifted some of the key text from the shared commitment, but you can read this in your own time, because I think it's really useful reminder for you all about kind of what NIHR commits to with regard to shared commitment. I don't want to go into too much detail because I know there's a lot to get through in the presentations today, but I thought it would just be useful to mention this shared commitment as kind of showing how NIHR does realise that we do need to work with the times, kind of move ahead, and I think that the topic of health data science really is one of those kind of key areas that we are keeping an eye on, thinking about how to we provide kind of guidance and resources on the topic, and just something that kind of a topic that is really kind of important to NIHR, keeping an eye on it in terms of patient and public involvement in this space. Moving on to thinking a bit more practically about what NIHR expects from kind of high quality patient public involvement activity. I always refer to the UK standards for public involvement, which NIHR was involved in developing, and this is very much the gold standard for what we expect. There are 6 standards which are outlined on the slide just in front of you, but I just wanted to kind of go into a bit more detail about all of them in turn. So the communications standard is all about how we communicate with members of the public and patients about our research and involvement opportunities, and it's useful reminder to use plain English when communicating with members of the public for well-timed and relevant communications tailored to that specific community. The working together standard means that we want to value all contributions regardless of the people that you're working with, and also it's a reminder that it's really important to build and sustain relationships based on mutual respect and trust. Inclusive opportunities is also a really important one because I'll talk about equality, diversity, and inclusion in the next slides, but it's one that we as kind of even my own team are really kind of focusing on at the moment, and this standard speaks to how opportunities should be accessible and also reach people according to their needs. The impact standard is all about how to monitor patient public involvement and also sharing learnings about how patient public involvement is making a difference to your research. The governance standard is speaks to how involvement can be embedded within research management and regulation and decision making. So, for example, within my team, we have an advisory group made up of members of the public that advise us on our strategic direction. And last but not least, the support and learning standard is all about offering learning opportunities to members of the public to build their confidence and skills so that they feel empowered to partner with us. And here I've linked 2 pages that I think would be useful if you want to find out more about the practicalities of patient public involvement. There's the Learning from Involvement website, which we manage, but also more relevant maybe to this audience is also the Health Data Research UK website, which has information on their website. And finally, I just wanted to spend a minute or two talking about the importance of equality, diversity and inclusion. For NIHR as a whole, there's real commitment to working towards achieving the new equality, diversity and inclusion strategy that was published earlier this year. And this really does apply to how we work around public involvement and engagement in research as well. And there are specific initiatives within NIHR that are tackling issues around EDI, but there's one in particular that I wanted to flag, which is being led by my colleague Faye Scott in my team. And this is the NIHR's Race Equality Public Action Group, which is a group that was established to really kind of give the community, racialized communities a stronger voice in shaping priorities for research, and it really does bring together a diverse group of individuals. And recently they've published the Race Equality Framework, which is a self-assessment tool where organisations can self-assess their race competency around various domains, including public involvement in research, and provides suggestions for how that element of their work can be strengthened. That's it in terms of a scene setting from me in terms of NIHR's perspectives on patient public involvement research. And we'll hand back over to Kate, I think. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Sylvia, for that overview.